How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTCReaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether the price is going up or down. So over on Dixie for the daily, we did continue forward. We did break away from our channel, watch a retest and a bounce. If we get a retest and a bounce, we would continue further, and we would likely see crypto pull back. We did get the rate cut, but we are seeing crypto sell off despite the rate cut. Again, it's toward the end of the year. People are selling off, probably taking some profits for like holiday shopping. And then you have other things like people not wanting to buy, big investors not wanting to buy because it's toward the end of the year. Stochastic does want to push up. RSI is gaining strength. VWAP wants to push up. Momentum is gaining strength, and money flow is pushing forward as well. Over on the 1 hour, you can see we got a very quick move up, so I would watch against a pullback. Remember, when you shoot for the moon, you do end up pulling back and crashing back down. So we do have a kind of retest probability where we could get a higher low. We could get a higher low, push forward, and continue forward. That may fill that higher time frame, like 109 area. That's that MPP that we saw on the 1 hour. So I would watch for that bounce closely. If we don't get that bounce, then that would be positive for crypto, because that means we could crash down on Dixie, and usually that means Bitcoin will go up. VWAP is starting to pull back. Momentum is running with a double red dot here on the 1 hour. RSI is pretty flat, starting to pull away as that orange gets above blue on that stochastic there. So if that stochastic continues to push forward here, we could continue to break away. Abolisher, we will cover graph for you right after we get to like dominance and total. We'll hop onto graph for you since you're making a special request. So just stay tuned real quick, since dominance and total we typically don't do too long. So over on Bitcoin for the daily, we are pushing forward. This is positive. Stochastic does want to round though. Momentum is rounding. VWAP is pushing kind of flat, so watch that VWAP. If it continues to stagnate, we may end up breaking away. Again, that would be more positive for altcoins, because we want to see red candles here pull us back below this value area high, that red line, and then that would give us more dominance toward altcoins, meaning altcoin season could potentially happen. If we continue seeing Bitcoin dominance continue forward, our altcoins are going to suffer against Bitcoin, so keep that in mind as well. That's why we cover the dominance, because it is important to watch. Stochastic does want to round. Momentum is rounding. That VWAP is pushing down, no problem. Abolisher, momentum does want to round away, and that money flow is in the green. But if that VWAP breaks down, we will see momentum round away, so I would just keep an eye on things. Our MPP is very indecisive. It pretty much says we have a possibility of being where we are, and well, no, we're like, duh, we're there. Don't know how to say that properly. There we go. Over on total for the daily, we are starting to round away, so I would watch. This could be a lower high with lower lows, so we could start to see a bearish continuation. If we see a bearish continuation, remember, we may pull back toward that 936, and if we don't hold that 936, that's where we do have that MPP probability of pushing down to that 781 area. Now, that is a 87% probability, so I would exercise caution, but that probability, I feel, is pretty new, so just keep an eye on it, because when they are newer, they tend not to play out as much, or they could take longer. We do still have that probability pushing forward, but keep in mind that was dependent on not making a lower high here, and we did follow that lower high with a lower low, so the next candle is going to be very important. If we break away, then we will confirm bearish momentum, possibly shoot away that 156 probability, and then that means our altcoins may start to sell off here or continue their sell off, as we see some are down pretty bad, like Graph and Algo. VWAP is pushing down, momentum is rounding, money flow is pulling back, so exercise caution as that VWAP holds bearish. If it does not reverse, we will continue lower. Over on the 1 hour, we have lower lows with our VWAP and a short high, so we do have bearish favor here. If we get a rejection of neutral, momentum will remain bearish, money flow will break into the red, and we will likely push lower. And if we don't reverse that trajectory around that 936, that's where we could break that and possibly push to that lower target. So over to graph for you, Abolisher. Over on the daily, we are seeing a pretty strong crash down below that 26,424. We did warn that the next stop when we do crash that would be our 20 cent area, so that would be the next short-term goal. But our MPP does say there's a 66% chance of pushing down toward that 14,177, which I think that 16,316 is a very strong support area. So watch for a hang up there. If we get a hang up there, bounce off that value area high, then we could still continue forward, gaining some bullish momentum, as that could be a larger pattern where we have a low here, a high here, and then we could make a higher low here, and then continue forward for higher highs, and potentially push back toward that 49 range, depending on if we can continue bullish momentum and if that total were to gain trajectory as well, at least usually. Remember, graph does sometimes do its own thing, so it could push up and total could push down, but that's not the most likely scenario, and you want to trade with probability on your side. Momentum is pushing down, VWAP is favoring bearish, and money flow is pulling back, so we do look like we are going to continue to correct if these things do not reverse. That VWAP does have a lower low after rejecting that neutral, weakening that money flow, so if the 1 hour continues to favor bearish, we could see higher time frames break down. So let's just look here. The 4-hour money flow is bearish, 2-hour money flow is bearish, and 1-hour money flow is bearish. Remember, when you get all three of these time frames confirmed in bearish trajectory for that money flow, that's where you see that daily weaken, and that's where you see these strong red candles like we're seeing today. Stochastic is pulling back, RSI is dropping down. That VWAP does have a lower low. We did try to get a higher high, so I would watch very close. That VWAP is indecisive at best. If that VWAP rejects our neutral and we make a lower high, or we push up and then reject, then we likely would continue lower. Our MPP does say we're pretty much bottom out for our current probabilities. The probability does say we could continue higher toward this 2781. But that would be highly dependent on that VWAP breaking through that bullish territory. Momentum would need to continue to round, and that money flow would need to head toward that neutral and possibly break through. We do have a higher probability if we zoom in here to get a lower high at that 24,721. So I would set an alert there, abolisher. If we do not break through that 24,721, then we could make a lower high. That's where we could continue lower toward that 20-cent area and possibly lower. But if we break through that 24 and hold, getting higher highs and higher lows, then we can see that bullish push forward and a rebound yet. So, possible prediction for Q1 right now is looking like we do have that possibility to see a bit of a pullback over the end of Q4 here the last couple weeks. So maybe the last couple weeks we see a slow drag down toward this 20-cent area. If we get lucky, hang up around that 16, that'd probably be like the best buy opportunity. Don't think we go too much lower. We can, but I don't think it would be too probable. Given how the rest of the market's looking, things are looking a little more positive, so I think we'd need a black swan event to take us much lower than that. But the MPP does say we could go down toward the 14, so keep that in mind because we do have things predicting we could go lower, and you want to kind of use that on your side too. Again, that line is a midway line. We have 3 lines, one that says we could make a higher low. We did not make that higher low, so we crashed through, and then we have our midway line right around that 18. That's kind of where we have our buy order. So VWAP is rejecting. I would watch for a strong bounce in those areas. That hopefully happen over the next couple weeks. If we continue seeing a sell-off over the next few days, then if we get some consolidation, make that bounce and continue forward, I would look more Q1. Maybe we start retesting that 49-cent area. And if people are going to start buying at the beginning of the year like they typically do, we could start to blast through that, jump over to the weekly to see some better price action. So I'd say we could have a good chance of retesting that golden pocket. That golden pocket would be a critical area to watch. That would be between the dollar zone and $1.20 zone. So that'd be quite the move from where we are today. That would be, I don't have my forecast tool. Is this the forecast? No, we don't have the forecast tool. That's the forecast. So I believe that's how you can go from here to here. That would be around a 350 to about a 392% move, providing the rest of the market continues forward and we see that strong buying action. Now, I would warn if we do push up there, that'd probably be like end of Q1, so probably like March, April. I would warn if we do hit up there to take some decent profits, as that is the golden pocket zone. The golden pocket zone is a heavy manipulation zone, so you could see a flash crash down, retrace any gains, So that'd be like the max bullish scenario I would go with right now. I would need to see a hold above that golden pocket in order to say we're going to push much beyond that. It is possible we do push beyond that. Our max target we have right around here is at $3 if we're going to retest previous all-time highs, and that is from around 2021. So I would watch for that max, but I would think that max maybe like end of the next year at best. But again, I do say may end up pulling away a bit. Usually you don't get bull market forever. We do typically see those quick moves. So if we hop over to Bitcoin, we have these parallel lines here, and they kind of highlight where all of our bull markets started. So we kind of got some lulls. We got decent moves up on each of these, and then we did see some kind of corrections. So we started here around November 18 and then right around July 19. So that's like what, 7-8 months. So keep that in mind. You have about 7-8 month time frame typically, because these are almost identical, and we have run up very strong for quite some time right now. So I would watch. This would be our consolidation range like we had back here, and then this would be a major break forward. Or you could consider this line like the end of this bear market, and somewhere in here would be the beginning of our current bull market. But I would personally consider some of this consolidation. That would mean that this zone kind of stretched out compared to previous markets, which would be positive because that would mean we may have more gas to go. But again, we have been moving for quite some time here. So just keep expectations in line. Don't get too greedy. Pigs get slaughtered. So take DCA in, DCA out. Don't go for the max of anything, because then you could be left sitting out, and then you may be left feeling like you shouldn't have invested at all, like 90% of people do. So no problem, Abolisher. I appreciate you watching, dropping those links for you guys. So if you want to visit the Mastering the Trade, that's in that first link. Our Discord's in the second. It's all for free, and that Mastering the Trade will show you some basics. So if you don't know what candlesticks are, supports are, different things like that, we cover that. Cryptographic basics, other things like that. Trading patterns, those are very important. That's what we use. We use patterns to help give us that confirmation to kind of say where we could go with price. Without patterns, it's kind of hard to say. Otherwise, it's just speculation. Patterns aren't 100%, but they do have, most of them have about 70 to 80% likelihood. And again, like I said with graph, you want to keep probability on your side, so make sure you visit that. But we are seeing a round away. We did have that rising channel. I would exercise caution because that could cause a further sell-off. So we are seeing a rejection. We do have the possibility of testing this 100 area and making a bounce. There is only a 36% probability of making a higher low here. The higher probability is pushing down toward the 80K right now. So I would exercise caution. If you haven't taken profits, maybe consider doing so, or watch very close over the next few days and have your stop loss in place. Stochastic does want to round away. We do have our orange above blue, so I would watch. If that continues, RSI will continue to trend down and bring price lower. VWAP is pushing down. Momentum is rounding away with a double red dot due to the VWAP breaking down, suggesting it wants to continue lower, and that is weakening our money flow, so I would watch very close on these lower time frames. Over on the 1 hour, our money flow is in the green, but remember what we said about the 1 hour, 2 hour, and 4 hour. If they all get in the red, then we could see a strong breakdown, and the 2 and 4 hour aren't far behind the 1 hour here. The 1 hour, we do have lower highs and lower lows, so I would exercise caution, but our MPP does say we could bounce back to 110K. I think it just loves 112K for some reason. Stochastic does want to push up. VWAP is pushing forward. Again, that MPP is very new, so take it with a grain of salt. VWAP does have lower lows and a shorter high. If we reject that neutral, we will continue bearish favor, see momentum continue to stay in bearish territory, and that money flow would break into the red. That would cause us to see that test of our 93K, and if we can't hold there, remember we do have those other gapped areas, like on futures, around the 77. Over on futures, we did fill that first gap, so that's over on the hour. That's why it looks so steep. If we look over to the daily, we do still have around that 70K gap, and then we do have around that 50K gap on our lower time frames. That 50K gap would be more of an extreme thing, and then we do have the MPP saying we do have that 24K gap as a probability, but again, that's a very low probability and a very high extreme. So we did do graph. We'll hop over to Anchor next, and remember, if you have any special requests, drop them in chat. Over on Anchor for the daily, we do have very similar price trajectory to graph, so we have lower highs and lower lows. We are seeing bearish continuation. VWAP is pushing down, momentum's breaking down, money flow is weakening, RSI is dropping, stochastic is weakening. Exercise caution, watch those lower time frames, and remember, when these lower time frames hold in the red, we will see those higher time frames weaken. So over on this 1 hour, we do have a probability of retesting that 45.47, but that's going to be dependent on breaking that 40.49. Right now, the MPP does say that 40.49 is a high probability that we do get a rejection there, and then we may see lower highs with lower lows from there and gain our buy order. Looks like we wicked just below that buy order. Not sure how we got left in the dust there. Possibly our order wasn't filled soon enough. We did make that order last night, and that's why it's important to kind of map your things out ahead of time. That's why when we see a possibility, we mention it right away, because then you could get an order in, you could be sitting there, and if things don't end up looking like it's going to fill, you can always move that order like you see us do when we do our trading. Stochastic is dropping down, VWAP is favoring bearish, but it does want to break that neutral. If the VWAP can break through that neutral and hold, we will see it push forward, but again, keep a close eye on that 40.49. Over on XRP for the daily, we almost broke down to the bottom of our flag. We did kind of get our second touch to the top, so I would watch for a continuation within this flag. It is probably going to take some more time. Again, these higher time frame patterns do take quite some time to play out. They're not going to play out right away. Lower time frame patterns, they may play out over the span of a couple days. That's why we cover both, because it's important to watch the bigger trend and the smaller trend, because the smaller trend can change and reverse that bigger trend. RSI is starting to pull back, momentum is rounding with a red dot as that VWAP breaks down. We did get a very short high, so I would watch that VWAP very close. If it continues to reject here, we do have those possibilities of our $2 range. There's a 28% possibility of making a, let's see, a higher low there, so that must be considering here. So there is a possibility of possibly making a higher low, getting a bullish continuation, but the higher probability is dropping all the way down to 73 cents. I think that's a big extreme. We do have the midway of about $1.10, so maybe set some areas in between. Maybe like this dollars, I'd say this $2 and this $1.40 range does look like it was a very volatile move, and there is a possibility we do retrace that very quick move up. And if we do get some consolidation in that zone and then push forward, that would be very positive, as that would make that more of a solid support before we continue to tear up. Momentum is overall rounding away. We do have a red dot, so keep an eye on that VWAP. If it continues lower, we could see a breakdown still. Over on our 1 hour, we do have lower highs and lower lows, so we are starting a bearish continuation as they do not connect. Again, watch if we continue lower. Our MPP does say there is a possibility that we are pretty much maxed out and we could continue forward, but its next projection is $2.45, which could end up being a lower high. So watch for a lower high very close. If we get a lower high following it with a lower low, we could break away from our flag, and that's where we could fill those lower targets. Stochastic is starting to favor bearish. Our VWAP is starting to round just under that neutral, so watch that VWAP very close. That VWAP needs to break bullish and hold if that momentum is going to gain strength and push money flow up. If that VWAP gets a rejection here, momentum will continue lower, money flow will break down, and higher time frames will be in jeopardy of breaking away. Our MPP does say there is still a 30% chance of breaking toward that 294 and maybe seeing our flag break forward, but this could be a case where our lower time frame may start to break that higher time frame. Over on Algo for the daily, we did kind of break that trend line that we've been using for the last couple days, so I would exercise caution, as that seemed to be a pretty strong support area. Again, it was lower descending price movement, bearish continuation, at least on the daily, as the highs and lows don't connect too well. You do have sideways movement after a push down, bear flag that could push you lower, very short flag. RSI does want to pull back, VWAP is trying to push down, momentum is rounding, and money flow is weakening, so I would exercise caution. It does look like we do want to hold that 37.49, but if we do end up breaking that, we do have our buy order right around that 34.64, and our MPP does say we could have a max pain around that 27.08. So that would be retesting our previous consolidation and pretty much eating up all of this quick run up that we got back here. Again, when you get a quick move up, you do eventually end up retracing, so keep that in mind. Over on the 1 hour, we do want to continue forward here according to the MPP. It does say we have a lower probability of making a higher high. The higher chance, just like everything else, is making a lower high. And again, if we get that lower high, we could end up breaking away, possibly filling that buy order. Stochastic does want to sell off. RSI is weakening as a result. So if that stochastic stays below that 30, RSI will continue to weaken and bring price with it. VWAP does have a lower low with a short high, so we do see bearish favor here. If it rejects this neutral, momentum will remain bearish, money flow will reject, and higher time frames will break down. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and join us in the